Welcome to Created IP. Today's subject matter is cyber scandals. I'm joined by Stephen Murray, Alice Wright and Kerry Bainon. Steve, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm head of IP and tech disputes here at HCR Law.
Alice?
I'm a chartered trademark attorney working at HCR Law.
And Kerry?
I'm partner in the commercial team and I love to geek out on cyber, so I'm very excited to be chatting to you guys today.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
So AI is the hot topic of the moment. I certainly get a lot of questions about it. And so the first thing is, how does AI interact with the world of fraud and scams?
Attacks and hacking events as a result of humans being manipulated. They'll get a phishing email. That's one where it's been sent by somebody who you think you know, who's maybe in a position of authority or something like that, or encouraging you to click on something. And that's how they deliver the spamware that then infiltrates the system. It was quite easy to spot about 5 years ago. The syntax that was used, the way the words were formed, how the people were addressed, you could tell it wasn't from the person you were expecting it to be. Also, perhaps not, you could tell the person wasn't English who'd sent it.
That's true.
Whereas now, with AI and the ability that the AI software has, it's so easier to mimic people. We've discussed the potential of people watching what's happening on your system, seeing the emails that you've already exchanged, and effectively learning how you talk, so that they can then generate an email that follows your syntax, sounds like you. So
It sounds like you is really interesting as well, isn't it? Because they find all kinds of ways to capture your voice, and then the next thing you know, you're giving instructions to finance to release cash.
And it doesn't take much of a soundbite of someone's voice to be able to mimic that, does it? I think something like if you introduce yourself in a voicemail could be sufficient from what I've heard.
So that you could use this podcast in theory. Okay.
We're not giving hints and tips here.
Sorry. Don't do that, by the way.
You hear examples, don't you, of, I had an email from my boss to wire X amount of money there, and it looks like it is them. So I suppose, the advice where it's previously been, if there are typos and if the English isn't very correct, it's possibly a scam. Actually, the advice could be the way around now, couldn't it? If it's too perfect, it's unlikely to be real. You want to see a bit of human error because that actually might identify that it's not a scam.
That's true. I had a friend of mine and he was phished, or basically someone set up a WhatsApp account using his profile picture and started sending messages to people throughout his firm. And for a long time, everyone thought it was actually him. And it wasn't until various events happened that everyone realised, hey, hang on a minute, I've got two contacts with the same photo sending me messages. And it was a bit scary, really, because, they mimicked him so well.
Yeah.
So, anyone could be caught out. And it was just from an image that they'd taken off
Social media or something.
Yeah, you know how the AI, they trawl the internet and they're able to collect data so well. I mean, there's so much information out there. If you Google someone, it's like really, really easy to find a target and find enough specific information about them.
What date of birth they might be, so that they can do call-ups and say, hey, or send a text, I'm borrowing a friend's phone. I'm stuck, could you send me 200 quid because I need to get a taxi back home, stuff like that. I mean, I've had a couple of those from supposedly my mum sending me these messages saying she's stuck. But just deep fakes and manipulating people.
So be careful what you put on social media.
Think about doing something like, it's my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, that straight away gives you date of birth away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you post it on the actual day.
Yeah, no, that's
it's
true.
interesting though, because if you've ever given like an interview, someone's doing like an article on you or something, they'll ask you all these questions. What's your first car? Well, that's like a security question with your bank, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's easily done.
Or if someone says, what's your dog's name?
Where did you go to school?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was your maiden name?
But like previous, it would have taken a human being to go through all this information and piece it all together. Now you just plug it into the AI and the AI does it for you, and that's what makes it so scary and so quick and so easy to proliferate even. And maybe that's why we're seeing more and more of these attacks and these scandals these days.
A really interesting example I heard of was created by a barrister that we went to we heard a talk from, and he literally, using ChatGPT, had created a pizza business whilst watching telly with his kids, in terms of he'd literally created up a fake company, he'd got a fake accountant to write up some accounts, he got a fake website, he got a logo, you name it, he had everything. And he said it was scarily easy to create that. And then that's sat there on the web that anyone could click on, make an order, money's gone. Yeah. It's very easy to create something with AI these days.
It's not always accurate, but that's a different subject. But...
No.
Well, yes.
Once your security systems have been breached, though, I think that's where I think we can help most of our listeners. We give them the education to spot these things, and obviously we just discussed it's difficult to identify a lot of what's happening these days.
Yeah.
But then it's dealing with the after events. I know that you were quite keen to talk about what happens once there's been some spyware placed on your systems.
Yeah, first thing is to make sure before you get to that horrible event is to try and make sure that you've trained everybody. You've got your reactionary policies, as it were, so everyone has a role to play, they know what the role is, everyone within the company knows who to contact, and you follow those procedures. And before you actually have a successful attack, you actually you test. You should definitely be doing that.
I think we had one in HCR the other week, and
we'd get a random Apple.
This was a fake email. Did you spot and report it? And I was like, I don't actually remember receiving that email. I looked through my junk folder and I assumed that it was already filtered out for me. But
everyone got a different one as well, so it's not like, oh, have you seen this random? Because I got an Apple one. I think someone else got, what?
It's good practice though, right?
Yeah.
It's good practice to train people to spot, however hard.
And it can be a bit fun as well. It's like, I spotted it. I reported it.
No.
There was a competition. Who got a box of chocolate first?
But equally important as like training and identifying and your policies, procedures beforehand is knowing how to respond. And having helped companies through that process is a human response. That's the most challenging because it is.
Panic.
Yeah,
you realise you've clicked on the link.
You might not even realise it. By the way, you might have done it and no one spotted it, and they're in your systems.
So
for
the
a long
first
time.
indication might be the ransom request.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just can't log in, or your printer starts checking out spurious stuff.
Well, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, I got sent something, and there was an email attached, and it was a link in the attached email, and I was like, well, I'm not expecting this. And I was like, but I'd open the email attachment because I was kind of expecting to see an email from this person. But then I was like, well, I'm not expecting to receive any files or any kind of communication. So I didn't click on the link, but it would have been so easy. I mean, in fact, we did have a breach and I nearly fell for it, but I didn't click on the link because I wasn't... Not a breach,
and I said if you didn't click on it.
No, I didn't click on it. But
it's something that got through, but you didn't...
Yeah, because unfortunately, I got an email from another member of staff saying, this person's email has been compromised. If you received anything from this email, please delete it because it's not genuine.
And I suppose that could be step one. Once you know, you need to notify anyone that could possibly be targeted.
Yeah. So notification, and the culture is really important as well. So making sure that your organisation, if you do something silly, we're all human, right? That at some point we're all going to do something that we shouldn't. But it's actually being able to put your hand up and say, do you know what, I've done something really stupid, or I'm worried.
I was worried enough to report to the IT team that actually I'd received the email and I'd opened the email, but I hadn't clicked on the link. And I just reported myself straight away because I was terrified that unbeknownst to me, my email account had been hacked and I was now propagating
you never know
the
which
scam.
point it's going to trigger, I suppose, do you? And therefore you can't be too careful.
Say I've clicked on the link and I've not noticed that it's a
You've
fake.
not noticed anything?
No.
Okay. And you haven't therefore reported it because you didn't know this problem?
No.
Well, hopefully there are all the tech measures behind the scenes with your wonderful IT department.
So do they monitor the emails that we're sending out? And if I suddenly started exhibiting unusual activity...
There will be all kinds of technical measures. It's never a good idea to talk about them publicly.
It's just a standard
all
practice.
Organisations will have something that they should have.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but if it happens, so you see that horrible screen come up, and you can't, know that you've been attacked. As I say, it's definitely knowing who to go to, and what third parties you need to engage. So hopefully you've already had that conversation.
Yeah, you need to have an incident plan beforehand.
Yeah, exacry.
But that's a really interesting point because nowadays, beforehand we had analogue telephones. Now a lot of inter-office communication is done via your computer.
Yeah.
So, if your computer's been hacked and it's locked, how do you contact?
So if Teams is down.
But that's on your computer. If your computer's locked out,
Yeah, you have to have some kind
Like
of backup
backup.
plan in place.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
be working from home.
Mobiles, I guess having like a set. If your laptop is infected and you need to contact someone.
But remember, if you're using systems that are already compromised, you don't know how far that compromise has
No,
gone.
that's true.
So that's why your organisation will hopefully, if they don't have the in-house resource, will reach out to IT tech companies to get that. What does my backup plan look like? Where do I
Okay.
move to? Make sure they've got the right contracts in place. Remember, if you're sending personal data back and forth, you've got the UK GDPR. You might be caught by the EU GDPR. So you've got all that regulatory framework to make sure that you know what systems you can use and you've got the right contracts.
And having
in
things
place.
like cyber insurance in place so that as soon as you are aware of something, you get it off to them and they release plan as well.
Cyber insurance is kind of interesting.
Okay.
Does it work?
You need to very carefully read the cyber insurance policy. You want to carefully look at what you're required to do, and you want to carefully look at the exclusions. And it should, in my view, it should never be something that's relied upon. It's okay, we'll be covered by insurance. That's a really bad strategy.
Yeah. So it goes in parallel with your plan rather than
Just
it's
have
the plan.
It's a backup. Yeah.
It's a backup. It's there if it's required, but the reality is they will look very closely at how you've conducted yourself. You may have a plan.
Yeah.
Have you stuck to it? And if you haven't,
Yeah.
that could be a reason why the policy doesn't bite.
Yeah. So exactly, it's understanding what you've bought and making sure it's appropriate. I mean, not all insurance companies are the same. Just got to say that. And we're not going to call one out over the other. But yeah, it's not a panacea. No, for sure. So you need other things in place, other solutions, and that's preparing, and that's testing, and that's making sure that people actually get to experience. I know it's just like a simulated experience, but still, it's what can I expect? Who do I turn to? And it's making sure as well that you are supported, because it's emotionally taxing when that happens. Even if you're not the one who's the cause of it, you still have some roles and responsibilities. And it's an immediate. So as soon as you know that you've got that attack, you've got your regulatory obligations to report to your regulators. You've also got your contractual things to understand as well. So a lot of contracts will have, commitments to inform within a certain time period. It could be immediately, it could be within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to all that? And the other thing that's really important as well is how do you safeguard your reputation? And that's something that's going to be important to you, Alice, being a trademark attorney.
Yes.
But it's protecting your brand. So do you have an effective communication strategy? That's
And
also,
how is it communicated to potential third parties that are affected by it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the immediate reaction from a member of the public might be, well, if they're compromised, I don't want to go near them again.
Yes.
And that's what happened to T-Mobile. What was it? 6-7 years ago, I think it was, where they talked about their breach. And it was massive backlash as a result of that, and their reputation was left in tatters.
But you can buy back confidence if you. I mean, it's easy to say, isn't it? It's a matter of, for most organisations, probably when, not if.
Yeah.
But if you have done everything you possibly can up front, everything that's reasonable given the risk, and then you have a really good response plan and you execute it and you execute it well, then hopefully that helps you restore some of that trust and confidence. But it's that fine line is that you can't lie in your messaging, you have to be truthful, but then it's that balance between what you say at what point. So your comm strategy is really.
And that's something that you don't want to be figuring out whilst you're in the middle of this
No,
nightmare.
exactly.
So pre-planning and having that incident response.
100%, because you're on the hook to notify either immediately, depending on what your contracts say, or, for
And I
example, to
suppose
the
you've got a
ICO within
duty of
72
care
hours.
to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens? Okay, so you know that you've got a problem, and there's various things that they can do once they've infiltrated your IT systems. There's lots of information of value there. But sometimes they hold you to ransom. I've heard lots about ransomware in cyber attacks. What do you do if you're sent a ransom from a cyber attacker? Like, do you pay them? I'm just a little confused about this. What do you think, Kerry?
Well, we all know I've got quite strong views on this subject. Personally, I would say don't pay. And I know that lots of organisations, it is built into their strategy that they will. And
That's on the basis that they think it will guarantee a quick result.
well, sometimes they think it's the only way to get their systems unlocked. So it's for practical reasons. But I say don't do it, because it's not, our regulator certainly doesn't recommend that we do it. I know the NCSC that's the National Cyber Security Centre, has particular views on that too. And if you just look at it at a really basic legal level, we have all this legislation around not paying or funding terrorism, for example, criminals, people who are subject to financial sanctions.
Yeah.
So if you're going to pay that ransom, unless you've done really good due diligence that's going to stand up to scrutiny and you know who you're dealing with, how do you know that you're not going to accidentally fall foul of that sanction regime?
But you will be, because surely the people that are sophisticated enough to orchestrate these attacks are organised criminals, and therefore by paying the ransom you are effectively funding organised criminal
it's
activity.
inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Well, you're funding criminal activity, whether or not they're subject to these financial sanctions that actually cause you to create a breach. Another question, but yeah, I would not.
And you can't trust them either. I mean, they've just infected your systems. What's the guarantee that if you pay them, they're going to do what they say they're going to do? I mean,
you might get poisoned data back.
Yeah. Just doesn't really
also,
work.
You just flagged yourself, haven't you, as being like a really
vulnerable
nice soft target.
Yeah.
So come
I'll
attack
have
me
a go.
again.
Yeah.
What do you do if you don't pay?
That's a really good question. You hopefully have got your backup systems in place. You've got copies of your data. Really important, by the way, if you think that you're having backups of your data, to actually check those backups.
Would they be offline backups so they can't be infiltrated?
Every company will have its own stance and every policy on that, and they'll take their own tech advice. But from a legal perspective, we would say have your backups and test your backups to make sure that they actually
And
work.
how often do you recommend that a company would have a backup? I mean,
And test it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that again is up to the company. So it will need to get back its data that it needs to trade, right?
Yeah.
And also their data that it has to have for regulatory reasons. You'll need to factor that in. So each company will have its own approach to that. So it's not a one size fits all, but it's definitely something that you should think about and document as well. Steve, you'll probably agree with me on this point, is document your decision making. So if you decided to take this approach, document why.
Yeah.
All the things
There's risk assessments, the impact of what will actually happen if you do this or you do the other. So if you make sure that you've got those written down, those policies, and then you implement those.
Okay.
I think
because that feeds into the insurance point you're saying, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. But there are alternatives to insurance. So there's lots of options out there. So just understand what's available for your business, I'd say. And make a good choice based on risk and price and other factors too.
But as a small company, surely you haven't got that expertise in-house. So, do people provide these kind of services?
There's help from NCSC, National Cybersecurity.
Okay.
They will provide guidance for small, medium-sized enterprises. Yeah, there's quite a lot of information available online. The ICO is really good.
Yeah, there's trusted sources of information.
Good.
Any last-minute antidotes? Any last-minute comments that we think summarise the subject?
I'd say don't be afraid, have the discussion and make a reasonable, sensible decision.
And sounds like planning is key. Have a plan and execute it, I guess.
It goes back to the old adage, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Yeah.
The 7 Ps in a polite way.
Yeah.
Sounds like good advice,
Indeed.
And hopefully no one gets caught by a cyber scandal.
We've got an idea of what we need to do, and hopefully the listeners will pick that up too.
Certainly think so. I've definitely learnt a lot. I have been the host, Emma. This has been Created IP, and hopefully people will listen to us again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
guys.
hope so.
Thank you.
No problem. Pleasure.